JP Sears, and I'm with Zion. I'm the founding creator.
I'm Justin Rezvani. I'm the founder and CEO of Zion. Zion is a decentralized social network built on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. It's designed to be the safest and most civil place online. It means that bad actors are disincentivized to use the system because we use Satoshis as a mean of mitigating spam and hate on the system.
I got involved, there's two pieces to that story. I first connected with Justin a little over a year ago, learned about this project he's working on. I thought, well, that sounds pretty amazing because I see major problems with centralized social networks. As many blessings as they brought to the world, I see major problems. Censorship, governing, control, influencing people's minds to something that's not based on truth. So I heard about this project Justin's working on, and I said, well, I've known we need that solution. I just didn't know what the solution was, but that solves problems that affect my life and that affect a lot of people's lives. And then because Zion runs on Bitcoin, another piece to my journey was there was a Michael Saylor video that I watched shortly thereafter, and that's what opened my, at the time, very ignorant eyes to the power of Bitcoin. So learning about the power of Bitcoin, how it empowers individuals to have sovereignty and freedom, and then merging that with the application layer of Zion got me pretty excited. So shortly thereafter, we formed a little partnership.
The reason that Bitcoin has gone powerful over time is it has this bit of an immaculate conception, a founder that is unnamed, a founder that is pseudonymous, that has never come forward. It's built on it took many years to build the robust nature of the network. You have this decentralized open framework. You have the changing of the code requires years of BIPs to be written and additions to be written, and no single person has control over the system. You know, it's very different than a company. You look at if you're a billionaire and want to control an organization, you can simply buy 10% and then join the board, as we saw this week from an individual, but you can never do that with Bitcoin.
And I would add, I think a risk of holding Bitcoin is, quite honestly, tyrannical governments trying to kill solutions that empower humanity beyond the control of the governments and the companies that run the governments. But I think the reward of Bitcoin is freedom, sovereignty, and a stable future for people and their families.
I think the most amazing thing to me is I can store 24 words in my mind and travel with hundreds of millions of dollars around the world with no one ever knowing that. That's a very unique situation. If you want to store $100 million, how do you do that in any other situation? $100 million of gold, probably going to take up this corner. $100 million of cash, probably going to take up half of this entire room. And how do you transport that over space? And then how do you transport that over time? I think Bitcoin is the one asset that allows for that you can travel with your mind. And for the first time, you can actually die with it. And it doesn't have to go to somebody else. And that doesn't exist with any other asset ever. You die, your house will go to somebody else. If you die, the gold will be found by somebody else. If you die, the cash will go to somebody else. If you die, the land will go to somewhere else. Your plane, your boat, your watch, your everything. But your Bitcoin can die with your mind.
Yeah, and what I see at this conference is freedom lovers. Certainly at the most simple level, people who love financial freedom. And I think well beyond that, so many people here are freedom lovers in the three-dimensional sense, where Bitcoin is the digital expression of freedom. So, and to me, freedom is our God-given state. It's the most beautiful thing humanity can ever experience. Therefore, it's very easy to take for granted because it's should be our natural state, but we're living in a world where that becomes compromised. So it's incredibly refreshing to see so many freedom lovers here reminding each other what's most important, and also reminding each other we are the majority.
My name is Ivan Benavides, and I'm with Immunify. Immunify is the leading bug bounty platform for Web3. So we're essentially a crypto security company. The metaverse is, I guess, an extension of reality. It's still kind of confusing to myself as well, to be honest. I'm not a big player in the metaverse, or I'm not like an expert in that realm, to be completely honest. I find it interesting though. I find like NFTs and everything that's stored and the way that people are connecting on the metaverse to be interesting. But I can't say that I have much experience with it. As more and more capital has flooded into that space, right? You've seen over 200 billion just in the last year flood into that space, into smart contracts. Then what we've seen is more and more groups of malicious hackers that are coming together and finding sophisticated ways to attack these projects and steal that amount of funds. That is where my company comes in, yes. So Immunify, we're a bug bounty platform. Usually, so projects they go through an auditing firm first, right? And then after that, we're kind of like the last layer of defense. So after a project's code gets audited, and if they want to launch a formal bug bounty program, they go through us. Or there's other ways to launch. Like some of them launch their own bug bounty programs on their own, right? Don't necessarily have to go through us. But yeah, we host some of the largest bug bounties in the world. In the last year, we've helped secure over $20 billion from being hacked, and these are reports coming in through our platform. So I think when you say it's safe, I can't necessarily say yes, it's a safe place, but I think that it's improving. A bug is a problem within the code. So something in the code that's written incorrectly, right? That will allow a malicious hacker to go in and exploit it. So the biggest ones, the critical bugs are found within smart contracts, right? The contracts, the code that secures the majority of the money within the space, right? So if there's a problem within the code of the smart contracts, then it needs to be fixed. Otherwise, there's a high likelihood that some malicious hacker will find it and exploit it, right? So that's where Immunify comes in. We provide our services, which include bug bounty, right? We have some of the most talented white hat hackers in the world that are, day in and day out looking at code and trying to find these bugs within projects' codes. Scams are getting more and more sophisticated as well, right? So you may get an email that looks like it's coming from your boss or someone that's really well known, and there may be like one small character that's off, and just because it looks so familiar, it's easy to just go on and click something, right? However, there are some best practices. You could first off research what are some of the more common scams that are prevalent in the space today, right? So you can help secure yourself that way, and then kind of along the line of the previous question, right? Research the project. Are they doing? Do they take security seriously, right? Are they doing auditing? Are they going through reputable auditing firms? Do they have bug bounty programs? Don't click on any like random links that are sent to you on email, right? I think that's an obvious one. There's just a lot of money there. So we're going to continue, as more and more money comes into this space, we're going to continue to see more and more malicious hacks, unfortunately.
My name is Dr. Leah Houston, and I'm with HPEC. So we are a decentralized autonomous organization of physicians. We use decentralized identity to also solve a real problem of credentialing and identity management, which is a $5 billion problem for us. Huge friction-filled manual process of identity and credential verification. But we also have a space where we can collaborate, communicate towards the best patient care for everyone. I had to personally deal with this credentialing issue, but I also dealt with this conflict of interest that we as doctors are all feeling. When we have a duty to our patients, when we took a Hippocratic oath to put patients first, and then all of a sudden we're being paid by a third party like an insurance company or our employer. Now we have, malaligned incentives influencing how we practice medicine and how we care for patients. In my opinion, most doctors feel this internal conflict because it's hard to serve two at the same time. And so that's why a peer-to-peer trusted network of doctors and patients will allow those incentives to be realigned and allow doctors to do the right thing for their patients again. This is a hope for people to feel freedom and autonomy, and not feel tethered to, systems that are really being controlled by a few. No matter what, they're going to want a piece of this. And so, even though there's a lot of decentralized or die enthusiasts, we don't need regulators, we don't need government. Maybe that's true, but if that's true, we need to get organized. We need to build a DAO quickly and organize and build our new system. I personally feel that, the current system is in place for a reason. We have the oldest constitution. America was founded on essentially, no taxation without representation and all of these ideas. We fled oppression, as Americans. So Americans in general, we are, freedom fighters in many ways. If the regulators tax this a fair amount and, we participate in ways that serve us and that we're getting feedback and we as people are regulating the regulators, then I think it can be good for us because it can help to accelerate this technology.
I am Josh Lawler. I work with Lawler. We are a law firm in the United States. We're about 50 attorneys, headquartered in LA, New York, Chicago, Austin, Denver, Phoenix, Northern California. We do complex transactions, complex litigation, intellectual property. We do a lot of work in distributed ledger technology, blockchain, across pretty much all of its aspects. You have to bridge it, and especially as we get into kind of metaverse, things that we spend time on are how do you have a decentralized philosophy, a decentralized organization that still needs to pay taxes, still needs to hire employees. You can't not interface with some state, some sovereign government, but a lot of the decentralization obviously kicks against that philosophically, so we do spend a lot of time figuring out how to make that work. If you look at the securities industry, and I will because that's where most people get hung up, there's a few things that people kind of don't get. One thing is that anything can be a security if it's sold in the wrong way here. So, my wonderful wristband, my industry pass for Bitcoin 2022, if I were to sell this to somebody and say, you are going to make money off of getting this pass, and you're going to make money off of it because I'm going to do what I can to kind of push the nature of this conference, and it's going to go up in value, and then you can resell it to somebody who's going to be attracted to the conference, and that's a reasonable thing for me to expect, and you're going to make money and I'm going to make money. This wristband just became a security. That's the Howey test, and it's based on a case out of 1946, and obviously it doesn't work anymore. And we're in a situation now with a lot of the digital assets and tokens, like the NFT that you had meant, where if you sell it the wrong way, make the wrong kind of representations and marketing, even though it's a piece of art, even though it's entry into a party, even though it's, whatever it is, the right to sit in this chair, it can also be a security. Smart contracts aren't contracts. Smart contracts are execution. It's an executable code. So, the Ethereum chain allows you to do if-then functionality. So, if the price of Bitcoin is this, then I'm going to deposit that money into that, private key. And that's great, but that's not actually a contract in the legal sense. A contract in the legal sense is a promise, and it can cover a lot of things that it can't be covered by code. Best example maybe is a confidentiality agreement. Like your smart contract cannot say you need to keep this confidential, and if you don't keep it confidential, then something happens, some injunctive relief happens. There is about 600 years of contract law kind of jurisprudence and precedents in common law systems like ours, and none of that gets interpreted by code. So what a smart contract is really good for is just, again, that if-then type of thing. You can get rid of some intermediaries. It's easy in terms of setting up escrow and things of that nature, but it's not actually a contract. Now, there's a concept called a Ricardian contract, which is a combination of smart contract code and traditional contract enforceable language, in whatever language that happens to be in whatever state, that you can use the smart contract to execute certain functions on the underlying contract, but if something goes amok, it's still enforceable in a court. And I think that's actually the direction we're heading. Metaverse and all, it kind of has to go that way. industry recognizes that the big hurdle is user experience and user interface. So even at the conference today, you're seeing a lot of kind of products that are like, okay, this is the simple one, this is the simple wallet, this is the simple miner, this is whatever it is. And, 1/10 of them might actually survive, but what comes out of that is hopefully going to be something more simple, including simpler smart contract, simpler NFT minting process, because it's not really that difficult. Conceptually, it's maybe a little bit difficult, but it's kind of like you don't need to know how an internal combustion engine works to drive a car. It's like, that's where we're going.
My name is Brock Pierce. I'm partners with David Bailey, whose event this is, BTC Media. The energy of Bitcoin is here, it's concentrated, and not just anywhere in the world, Miami. I want to give proper props to Miami. I want to give props to Mayor Suarez, the mayor of Miami, for his incredible leadership and his vision and his message. His message, which is the message our elected officials throughout this country need to have, which is, how can I help? If more of our elected officials operated with that mentality, we would live in a much better city, a much better state, and a much better country, and a much better world fast. So how can I help? Right now, my focus is, and not my area of expertise, but my focus is our system of governance, otherwise known as our government, and how to bring future sort of conversations to the table, start to address issues of incentives. It's the system that governs over us. And I'm working on figuring that out and how to improve that system. Our system of governance, otherwise known as our government, make very important decisions on our behalf that affect our collective future. I think it's important that our elected officials understand the future and understand where we're going, hopefully have some shared vision of what kind of future we want to live in. Because by having that shared vision, by understanding the future and where we're going, the likelihood of us getting to that destination safely and in a way that we're all happy is higher. And so I think it's very important that our elected officials, have a sense of the things that matter right now. And I'm really happy to see more and more members of Congress taking the time to learn, understanding that the future matters and the future is going to happen to us or with us. So what's most important is that you get involved. I'm deeply concerned about our collective future, and I don't think that our elected officials know enough. But that's okay. Let's elect those that do, and let's educate those that are. I travel around and talk to world leaders on a regular basis. I talk to elected officials here in the US and abroad on a regular basis, and I'm a source of information for them. I'm talking to a lot of people. We're dozens of nations. I get up every day hoping to make the world a better place, to make it different in a positive way, and I think I'm making a difference everywhere I go. I don't think there's an industry that I've set foot in that wasn't changed substantially as a result of my actions. So, and I think that's true of places now as well. I think that my actions and presence in Puerto Rico has made a difference. And I hope, and I'm pretty confident, the same thing will be true of Vermont.